Hi everyone, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be sharing my story of how I converted not just once, but twice to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So stick around and find out. So as I said, I converted to the church twice. Now, I didn't get baptized twice. Don't worry, there were no shenanigans as far as membership is concerned, although I did consider it, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I converted twice. I converted the first time when I was 14 in high school, and I converted again this year when I came back to church after being gone for 10 years. And the funny thing is when I converted the first time, I was Robert, and when I converted the second time, I was Emma. So why do I say converted twice? The reason I say converted twice is because I had to change my whole life, and not in a bad way. The gospel does that to you. The restored gospel does that. You know, there's that saying of you found Jesus. Well, that's a saying for a reason. And there's so many things that are different about me as a person and my life this second time around compared to the first time. And I think even though I spent 10 years away from the church, I think that in some ways it really strengthened me when I came back. And now I don't recommend it to anyone because a lot can happen in 10 years, but I do believe that I am more converted, if you will, now than I ever was before. So let's just start with the first one. When I was growing up, my family was not much of a family. My parents got divorced when I was little. My mom and I lived together. She had a handful of people that came and went over the years, and one that stayed longer than the others and became my stepdad when she got married again. But for all intents and purposes, my early childhood from 0 to 14 was not religious at all. There was maybe a handful of times that we went to Catholic Mass, but my mother has never been religious and never wanted to go to church and never wanted me to go to church. And it wasn't until I was in high school in my freshman year that I came across someone who was a Latter-day Saint. Back then, we still called ourselves Mormon. And her name was Tiffany, and I became friends with Tiffany, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a big, major crush on Tiffany. Now remember, I was Robert back then. I was still presenting as male. So I had this major crush on Tiffany and wanted to hang out with her all the time, and someone, I don't remember the exact circumstances, I don't know if she said something or if someone else said something, but it came to my attention that she was Mormon or she's a Latter-day Saint. And I was like, what the crap is that? I've never heard of that, don't know anything about it. And, she was really did the perfect thing that you're supposed to do when someone starts asking. I think she bore her testimony. She invited me to church, and invited me to seminary. My first experience with the Latter-day Saint Church was seminary at 5:30 in the morning. Super early for a 14-year-old, just gonna say. And I went primarily because I had a crush on her. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna totally convert and it's gonna be great. So I went and I was like, whatever, I'll check this out. It seems interesting. You meet every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, what kind of church is this? So I went, and the seminary teacher was so happy that I was there, which was great. I'm sure she could have been like, what? Like, I don't think you're supposed to be here, but she wasn't. She was great. And she let me borrow a set of scriptures that someone had left behind and had forgotten and moved away. And so I got this secondhand set of scriptures, and I was told to read the Book of Mormon and to pray to know if it was true. And I don't remember, I think it was either later that night or the next morning, I did that. I read the Book of Mormon, and I almost didn't even have to read. I didn't have to pray, because reading the first chapter of First Nephi was like being struck by lightning in a way. Like, it just, not a bad way, but just like, it was almost like I could feel light just like pouring out of my body and my soul and my heart, because I knew that I had found the truth. I knew, I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. Something told me, like, yep, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is the religion for me. This is the church. And I'm going to do this. And I started going to seminary every day. And I loved it. I remember being very tired, but I loved it. And I started meeting with the missionaries. And I cannot remember their names to save my life. I don't even remember what they look like. No idea. But I met with them, and they were pretty cool. I liked them. They were nice. My mother adamantly refused to let me have the missionaries over at the house, so I had to meet with them at my friend Tiffany's house. And I went through all the like, you know, pre-baptismal lessons with them, and it got to the point where it was time for me to get baptized. And my mother was like, nope, not gonna happen. It's a cult. You can't get baptized. And I remember arguing with her, and I remember it was just, she was, nope, not gonna happen. You are going to have to wait until you're 18, and when you're 18 and you move out, you can do whatever you want, but as long as you're living here, you will not be a Mormon. You will not be baptized. And that was heartbreaking, and it was really hard, and it was really hard to tell the missionaries that she wouldn't let me, and they, you know, they tried really hard. I think they knew how much I believed. They knew how much it meant to me, and they really wanted me to be able to be baptized. And I think their enthusiasm for that got misinterpreted as being pushy. And so I kind of got turned off to the church in a way, because it just felt pushy. And they weren't listening, and I'm 14, not the most mature individual. So I was like, you know what, forget this, I'm done. I'm not going back. It's not going to happen. I wasn't like, the church isn't true, but just was like, I think I'm good. I don't need the pressure from you to get baptized when I can't. So I stopped going, and then when I was a sophomore, I missed church. I don't remember why, but I decided to go back to church again, started going to seminary again, went to seminary much longer, met with sister missionaries this time. There was 3 of them. There were 2, and then one of them swapped out, and there was the other. And the first one, her name was Sister Mertlick, I think was her name. And I have tried to find her. If you are out there and you are watching this and you remember teaching lessons to a little 14-year-old, 15-year-old named Robert in Colorado, that was me. That's me. You should totally message me, because I have wanted to talk to you so many times, and I have no idea where you went to. Anyway, she had 2 companions, and I don't remember their names. I remember one of them was French. I adored her. She was I just loved her accent. It was fantastic. And the other one, I think, was Korean, but I don't remember their names. But they met with me, and I explained to them that my mother wasn't going to let me get baptized, that I was happy to meet with them, I was happy to do the lessons, I really enjoyed the lessons, but my mom wasn't going to let me get baptized. And I went through it with them, and they were very understanding, and they taught me all of the pre-baptism lessons and taught me all of the new member lessons as if I had been baptized, and I learned all of it, and and I loved every minute of it, and I was so happy. And it was very interesting because, when I wasn't in church, I was a very different person, and when I was in church, I was a very different person. And I remember many of my friends who were not Latter-day Saints would be kind of annoyed when I would go to church. They would just be like, oh, here we go again. He's going to church again. And, they'd kind of make fun of me and tease me. And, that never really bothered me because I didn't care. I knew it was true. And, there's a lot to this story. And if you want to hear more, I did a podcast interview with the Comeback podcast. Please check them out. Listen to that if you want. But I'm just going to fast forward to college. So I finally was able to leave home and not be under my parents' thumb anymore. And I had made a promise to a friend that I'd gone to seminary with that when I went to college, I would get baptized. And I didn't make good on that promise for the first 4 months of school. The first semester, nope, completely forgot about it, did all the things that you're not supposed to do. Almost failed out. It was bad. But when I came home from winter break, he was like, did you get baptized? And I was like, oh, no, I didn't get baptized. Kind of forgot that was a thing that I promised to do. And, he was just like, no, you're going to go get baptized. And, this is a thing. This is true. What are you doing? You need to repent. You need to go to church. He gave it to me. He did not, no, he didn't spare anything. He was like, no, you're going to go. And I was like, okay, you're right. I should have done this before. I didn't. And so when I went up to school for my spring semester, I did get baptized. I went and found the Institute building on my campus, and I walked into the Institute building, and the elders, Elder Hall and Elder Dietrich, were sitting there in the foyer, and people were running around, and it was so not what I expected when I went in. It was so much more rambunctious and excitable and happy in there than I thought. I don't know why I thought it would be different, but I went up to one of the elders and I was like, I want to get baptized. And they were like, what? Yeah, I want to get baptized. And they're like, what? Hold the phone. That's great. We're going to do that. But what? We don't know you. How do you know you want to get baptized? I'm paraphrasing. They didn't say exactly that. But, I explained to them, I've been through these lessons twice. I've known the church was true for 4 or 5 years by this point. I'm ready. Let's do this. And I did. I got baptized. And I remember when he baptized me. And I remember coming out of the water and feeling so different. And not just because I was sopping wet, but I remember I was very worried that my underwear was showing through the baptism garment stuff, but that's neither here nor there. I just felt so different, and I remember changing in the bathroom afterwards, and I just felt so at peace. I don't think I've ever felt that at peace in my whole life. And it changed my life. My entire life through college was different because I was part of the church. And I struggled a lot. I did. I struggled a lot. And struggled not with my faith, but just with, keeping the commandments. I hadn't been raised to do that. I hadn't been raised to live the word of wisdom and to, live the vow of chastity. Like, that wasn't something that I had ever really done, despite going to church on and off through all of high school. And I struggled, but I never once lost my faith. And every time I was active in church and I was going, I was so happy. I loved studying the scriptures. I remember they did a challenge of, read the Book of Mormon between now and Christmas. And I didn't just read the Book of Mormon. I read the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price, all of the New Testament, and was like maybe a third of the way, halfway through the Old Testament by the time Christmas came, because I was like about it. I wanted to read all of it. I wanted to be the best Latter-day Saint I could be. And when I wasn't at church, I wasn't happy. Things weren't good. Things were really hard. A lot of sadness. So, I think I'm just going to do the second conversion in another video. So please come back and watch that so I can talk about what it's been like to come back. Talk maybe a little more about why I left and sort of what happened in between, and then why I came back. I just don't want this video to be super duper long. So thank you. If you watched this whole thing, please don't forget to share and like and comment. And thanks for watching.